Hello and welcome. Today is day one of my attempt to record video walkthroughs for some, probably not all, of the past questions from ModelOff, the World Financial Modeling Championships. I'm going to be starting with section 2 from 2013, which is the very first case study I attempted in ModelOff. Now, if you haven't seen it already, I posted a video with a short one with just a sort of introduction to this series of videos, which I'll put a link to up in the corner if I remember. But the most important thing I emphasized in that video is you've got to try the question first. You will learn 10% by just passively watching this video of what you will learn by going, attempting the question, struggling, failing, whatever. Like maybe you'll find it easy, you don't need to watch the video at all. Maybe you'll find it really hard, you'll come back here to kind of get some pointers or whatever. But if you don't try it first yourself, you won't know what you're missing, you won't know what you should be looking out for. It just won't work nearly as well. So I strongly recommend you go try that first. So I'll put a link down in the video description, but what you will find there is there's a, oops, that's not the right one. I want to be in here. There is a folder which is available online here with all the past ModelOff problems by year, and there's also this sheet that has the list of all the past questions and various information about them. I've got the author. I mostly only know that for the ones in the later years. The time, as I do the solution videos like this one, I'll be putting links in here to those, and then there's some various kind of notes and tags so you can search for specific topics. So basically most of the rounds, at least for the first few years, were 2 hours, so there's total time of 120 minutes here for 2013 round 1. The first question for most of them was just multiple choice questions. I'm not planning on making videos on those because they're not that exciting. And then there was usually 3 case studies. So I'm going to be starting with the first case study from 2013, which is acquisition financing, modeling different types of debt. Couple of ground rules. Most important one is it's not going to be perfect. So I'm not attempting to sort of walk you through how to build a perfect solution to this, or how, if you were working on this situation, for a client or in your work, how should you aspire to build it? Because that's a different question from how should you build it in, I've got the target time for each question in here, how should you build it in 40 minutes if you need to answer the questions. It's not just going to be, throw everything down in a sheet, because even in a competition environment, it's helpful to label your work as you go so you can kind of see what's happening and keep tabs, especially as you build larger models. So that there is going to be some formatting, that kind of thing, but it's also not going to be, everything optimized. It's not going to be, sometimes where, for example, a variable doesn't get changed over the course of a question, I might not build it dynamically in, that kind of thing. So that's that. The other thing obviously is, I'm only going to build it once, and I'm going to build it under some time pressure, and so there will be design choices. Like the obvious one that stands out as I think about this question is, in this day and age, you could build this, you could build a debt model with a lot of timing flexibility with dynamic arrays. How much effort do you want to go to make it so that, with a flick of one switch, you can expand it out to multiple many more periods or fewer, or have it expand or contract as you change a variable to say, how long the period of a debt is, that kind of thing. I'm gonna do things one way, obviously, because I'm only going to build it once. But if you do it a different way, or if you think that you have a different way that's worth sharing, I would love it if you would send me your file. I'm going to basically put all my files. This is 2013 round 1. I'm going to put a subfolder here where I will place all the files that I make in these videos. But if anybody else wants to share their files or share video walkthroughs, even better, of their own, then I'm happy to kind of put those in here as well. One more little bit in terms of background of what you will find in the folders, and then I'll kind of dive on in. So basically what you'll see in here is there's a PDF for every question with the instructions, and then some questions, but not all, have a workbook either with the detailed assumptions in there, or with the start of a model to edit, or something like that. This first question I'm starting on is actually one example that does not have a model. You just start from a blank sheet of paper. They also all come with this question breakdown. So this is basically saying, for round 1 of 2013, target time is 120 minutes. This is how much time you have for each section. They also include this style guide. Main thing I would say to you about this is don't be too intimidated by it. I was very intimidated by this and took it very literally when I was initially doing ModelOff. If you get the answers right and you have 2 decimal places instead of 1, and your model doesn't look atrocious, then you're fine. Don't worry about it. Is all I would say about that. All right, anyway, I do want to keep this video within, what did I say, 40 minutes. And I've already yacked for a while, so I better get on with the question. So here we go. The case study is acquisition financing. You want to forecast the performance of a multiple tranche debt facility that will be drawn at different times. And then, so interest, if you're into technical debt modeling, you'll know all this. If you're not, you won't. But so interest calculations, 3360 is basically the simplest way of doing it, which is assume that an equal amount of interest accrues in each month, as opposed to saying, less interest in February, more interest in July and August because of the number of days in the month, which would be called actual over 365. Or there's lots of other variations on it, but 3360 and actual over 365 are the most common ones. All interest rates given are simple annual rates. In other words, to figure out the amount of interest that you pay on a debt in a month, you take the annual interest rate, you divide it by 12, and you multiply that by the balance. All cash flows occur at calendar quarter end dates. In other words, you don't ever have to think about the average balance in figuring out what to apply the interest to. The debt payment doesn't happen until the end of the quarter, so the opening balance is the balance for the entire quarter. So the interest for that quarter is the opening balance times the interest rate divided by 4. Simple as that. Okay, so we've got 4 different tranches with different assumptions. Tranche 1, 2, 3, 4, how much is drawn down and on what date, what's the term length, what's the interest rate, and some of these are variable, and then other funky details. So here we have interest is paid every quarter, and then we've got, I'd never heard of this description other than in this context. It's called a credit foncier schedule, assuming that's French. I don't even know if it is French, meaning equal total principal and interest payments. To me, I would just call that a mortgage payment, because I think that's how most of us see that in our real lives. But anyway, so this one, interest only for the first 5 years, and then equal principal payments for the rest. This one, interest only and paid off in full at the end, so no principal payments along the way. And the last one is interest is capitalized for the first 2 years and then paid each quarter after that, and equal principal payments. Okay, and then it's just questions. That's it. These are all the assumptions. So let's go build a model. So I'm starting from a blank page, like I said, but just so that I'm not spending time thinking about the style guide, I took the kind of built-in styles from one of the later ModelOff models, because a lot of them have these same styles. So it's, this is calculations to 0 decimal places a number, to 2 decimal places a number. These are assumptions to various decimal places, and so on. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, that's enough chat. Let's get setting up. So I'll be vaguely proper. We'll say MO13 R1 Q2. I'm not going to be any more proper than that. I'll turn off my grid lines and then start with tranche 1. Tranche 1. And actually, before I get to tranche 1 even, let's put in my dates. So we're interested, everything is by quarter. First drawdown, let's see, I see 31st of December 2013, 14, 15, 14. Okay, so the first drawdown date, so we'll say Q and and we'll say 12/31/2013, and then we'll say EO month that, comma 3, and I like to make a different formula from the rest of the row be red, and then we'll copy this across. Let's see, what's the longest term? 9 years from so that's the end of 22. That looks like that's the longest of them. If I need to expand later, I always can. So 9 years is going to be 9 by 12 is 108. So to there, no, sorry, no, not 9 years, so 36 quarters, not 108 months, because we're doing a quarterly model. Okay, so there we go, that gets us to the end of 22. I'm going to hide everything after that because it makes it a little easier for the modeling, and then I'm going to freeze panes here with that stuff visible. Okay, so now tranche 1. So we're going to want opening, drawdown, payment, closing, and interest, and actually leave one more space here for the assumption. So the drawdown, actually let's have 2 columns for assumptions. So first assumption is the date, and that is this date. And the second assumption is the amount. Oops, and that is 14 million. So then we will say equals if this lock in the column equals this, lock in the row, and this, otherwise 0. Oh yeah, and I should have done this a little sooner, but I'll do it now. Make everything like that. Ugh, that got rid of my formatting up here, which is silly, but anyway. Then I need to redo my dates. Date. And I need to make this one red again. As you can see, I'm not being the most perfectly time efficient here, but I'm also pretty familiar with this question, so I'm not too worried about that either. So copy that across, copy that across. I'm going to make this one just a fixed assumption of 0 to start. Okay. Then the interest is going to be, well, what's our interest rate? 8.25%. So we want percent, 2 decimal places assumption. So it's going to be this block times the opening balance divided by 4. Carry across. And then we want equal principal plus interest payments over 7 years. So I'm just going to put the, so I'm going to use the PMT function to calculate the payment. So my rate is 8.25% per year, but I'm making quarterly payments, so divide by 4. The number of periods is, sorry, I should have that as an assumption also. So what did I say, 7 years? Yes. So I'll calculate it here. So the rate is this divided by 4. The number of periods is that multiplied by 4. And the PV is this. So then my payment is here. Okay, so then here we're going to say equals the max of this, and sorry, max of minus this, and this plus the interest. Should, I think, so we should see, let's see, does it get paid off in 7 years? That's the test. 28 quarters, yes it does. Okay. Then I don't worry too much about these zeros floating out here because they are, an Excel rounding error is a very, very small error indeed. So this is 10 to the minus $9. So basically not worth worrying about. So that's tranche 1. And now hopefully we can accelerate a little bit because we'll be able to carry over a lot of the logic here into tranche 2. So what happens in tranche 2? 31st of December 2013, so that stays the same. $25 million, that stays the same. Or that logic, I should say, stays the same. 9 years. And it is, okay, yeah, so 9 years, but sorry, interest only for the first 5 years. I really should label these. I'm being sloppy about that. So call that term. And just make this call this IO term, interest only term. Call that rate, obviously. And oops, call this draw. call this term, call this rate, and put this over here, call it PMT. Okay. And then I'll do the same here. PMT. But this time it's going to be a principal only payment, so it's just going to be this divided by that minus that. So there's 5 years of interest only, so 4 years of principal payments. So that's the number of years, and then you can either, if you're comfortable with your math, you can divide by 4, or you can wrap it all in another set of brackets and multiply by 4 to make the number of quarters. So then here we're going to say, what am I doing? Oops, I'm pointing to there, there. So, oh, sorry, yeah, because I've got a positive number here. That's why that is misbehaving. So minus that. And we're not going to add back the interest because we're just working out principal payment there. So we copy that across, and then again the test is, oh, sorry, I haven't yet made it only happen in the right years. So let's have a flag for int only period. And for this, I'm going to calculate EO month from here, be 5 years times 12 months. So this is, sorry, I've got a date format here. Oh, so we're going to be interest only until the 31st of December 2018. So we're going to say this greater than or equal to start date times this less than or equal to this date. And that is going to be the sign that I'm in my interest only period, right? Yes, sorry, I actually wanted to be greater than that because this is the quarter in which you draw down, but you're not paying any interest either way. Okay, so then it's going to be this times 1 minus this. So you're not making any payments if you're in the interest only period. And then we see no interest gets paid until here, and then first interest payment gets paid 31st of March 2019, and thereafter we make 16 payments, and that pays off the loan in full. So a total of 9-year term, 36 quarters. Good. Then the interest is actually already working just fine. So that's the advantage of carrying over from one tranche to the next. Okay, so then tranche 3 has 2 drawdowns. That's a little bit of a twist, no big deal. And everything else is actually pretty simple. I'm going to copy from tranche 1 because it's just a little bit more like that. So tranche 3, so draw, we'll just call this draw 1. Let's move this up, and we'll call this draw 2. Okay, so the first one is on the 30th of June 2014. So 30 June 14. And the second one is on 31st of March 15. 31 March 15. Okay, and the first amount is 10 million. Oops, all right, playing with my brightness. 10 million, and the second amount is 4 million. Okay, term is 4 years, rate is 7.45%. And PMT, I don't need that, but I do need, let's call it bullet date. And that is going to be EO month. Start from the first drawdown, right? Doesn't actually say, but I'm going to say, oh yeah, years from first drawdown of tranche. So yes. So it's going to be EO month from here, 4 times 12 months. I'll get you to there, and that is date. Okay, so now this needs to be a totally different formula, so we'll ignore that for a minute. So we've got a 10 million drawdown here, and then some, oh, where is my, oh, sorry, yes, I haven't updated my formula to pick them both up, it's only picking one up. So you could do this as a lookup, but my preferred way here is to do it as a sumifs. So we're going to sumifs this. I guess I'll lock it in just that way. so that I can carry that logic down if I needed to. That is this. Now here we're leaning on the on the kind of given assumption that we'll always be looking at quarter end dates. If these drawdown dates were arbitrary dates, then you would want to write the formula to be such that it's the date is less than or equal to this and greater than the previous one. But I'm just going to rely on that assumption here. So we draw down 10 million June 14 and 4 million in March 15. All good, happy days. And this little flag here is because you're omitting adjacent cells. There could be a value in there, but there's not, so we'll move on. So then payment is going to be if this date equals this date, then minus sum. Oh, actually, we can just make it minus the total outstanding principal. Otherwise, 0. Carry across, and then sure enough, 4 years later, I guess we need to widen out our columns a little. We pay off the whole loan. Something funky is happening with the interest here. Oh, that's because I've locked in a row. That's very silly of me. So, gotta be careful with that. Because I'm copying my logic down, I should not be locking in that. And then, probably pointing to the wrong row when I get up to here, but anyway. Oh no, sorry, it's here. So maybe it's still pointing to the right row. Let's see. Yes, it is good. And bring it down here. Okay. So it's good to, have these little sense checks every now and again. We're like, okay, does the interest stop paying when the loan is gone? Does the interest start before the loan starts? That kind of thing. Anyway, so that's tranche 3. Tranche 4 is again a 2-part one, so I'm going to take tranche 2 as my template for that. Not swimming in time, but we're not doing terribly either, especially considering I'm being a little fussy with the formatting. All right, so 22 million on the 30th of September, 2014. 30 Sep 14, 22. By the way, one thing, there are a lot of things you'll notice change as we go through the years of the ModelOff questions. One thing that changed, in my opinion, very much for the better, is that all these numerical assumptions would be given to you in an assumptions tab, rather than you having to retype them in the later years. But anyway, that is what it is. So, term this time is 6 years. And it's interest only for the first 2 years. Sorry, not interest only, it's interest capitalized. So I'll call it int cap term, just to be terse with my terminology. Then the payment I'll have to work out in a different way, so I'll just clear that. The rate is, there's 2 different rates. So I'll just do the same thing as before, rate 1, 8.2. So it makes sense, you pay a higher rate for the period that you're capitalizing your interest, because that increases the risk for the people you're borrowing from. So I could do a flag here. It's actually already kind of set up for what is now my interest capitalization period, but what I would rather do, actually, does it matter? Yeah, I think what I would rather do is actually have a flag for my payoff period. So payoff period, and that is going to start. Well, let's see. This is already int cap end. So it says the loan blah blah blah. First payment on the 31st of December 2016. So in other words, not on the 30th of September. So you have 2 full years, 8 payments where you're not paying principal, and then on the 9th payment you pay principal. So we are going to say, well, actually, yeah, let's say first PPMT, first principal payment. And then we can say that plus 3. So 31st of December 16. So then we're going to say if the date is equal to that date, then what I'm going to do is a countdown of, actually, am I? Yeah, I'll do a countdown. That's the easiest way to do it. So what I'll do is, if the date is equal to that date, then it's going to be this minus this times 4/4. Otherwise, it's going to be the max of previous one minus 1 and 0. And so that max minus 1 and 0 just means that here we'll say the previous one is 0, subtract 1 from that. The max is just a way of saying if you're at 0, stay at 0. But later on, when we're in the payoff period, you count down 16, 15, 14. So there's one formula that says B16 here, because that's, you know, the total term minus the interest capitalization term times 4/4, so that gets you 16. So there's 16 principal payments, and this is the countdown of those. And that way we can divide the outstanding principal balance by that to get the number of payments to make. One quick thing is, because I'm referencing a cell that's outside my formatted range, I like to do a quick crosshatch shading is my go-to, just to say don't screw around with this cell. Okay, so then the drawdown is working, opening and closing are all obviously staying the same. So then here it's just going to be if this is greater than 0, then minus the opening balance divided by that, otherwise 0. So then we come along here, no payments, no payments, no payments, no payments, no payments. Copy it over to there, and then we expect the first payment here, and we get it. And we should find the payments being equal, and we do. So then there's only one problem left, which is we haven't actually capitalized the interest. So let's do that. Int capitalization. So now we're going to say if this is greater than 0, then 0. Otherwise, we're going to add this. So now we can see we're adding to the loan. But importantly, you'll notice this is not increased, and that's because I inserted a row. You have to be very careful when you insert rows that you expand your sum range. And then copy across to there, and you can see the balance is growing. And then we come along to here. So now we've got a totally different balance, which is why I did not calculate the payment over here in the way that I had for some of the others, because you got to figure out what the starting balance is, but we still see that we're paying off the same amount in each quarter as we go along. All right. So that's tranche 4, and then finally I'm just going to have a little summary. So let's just take this summary, get rid of all of these obviously, oops, I don't need this formatted differently. So now the nice thing about keeping my consistent labeling all the way through the different models is that I can do my summary in quite a quick semi-automated way. So I'm going to say sum ifs. I'll do everything from here up to the top of tranche 1, lock, where this lock is this, lock. And I will just say, if I have used this format in kind of client models, commercial models before, if you're going to do that, obviously you need to put a degree more checks in here to make sure that, like integrity checks. So for example, if I put opening space here, now suddenly that loan is no longer feeding through into here. So if you're going to use this in the real world, you would need to have some integrity checks, like does every tranche have each of these terms or something like that. But again, it's competition, time pressure, and obviously the fact that you've just built it and nobody else has tinkered with it gives you a high degree of confidence that no one else has screwed with these names. So anyway, that's that. I guess the other thing that I should mention is, as far as I can, I'm going to do something like what I've just done now, which is kind of, take the assumptions, build the model, and then go and look at the questions. On some questions, where I'm not as familiar with the topic or where I'm just a little less sure of things, I'm going to have to go and look at the questions to figure out, am I even going in the right direction? Or, if I'm less sure about my interim answers, then I'll kind of go and check for that as well. But, I want to kind of do the questions at the end, partly because some questions say, make a change in your model, and I want to show you how to do that, and partly just because, it's part of it's part of the experience, so a walkthrough should include that. But if you want to bail on the video when I start answering the questions because, you know, now you've learned how to build a model, that's totally fine. I will not be sad. So anyway, so Q&A. So there are only 5 questions here. So let's see. Question 1, what's the total interest paid on tranche 3? So sum, tranche 3, interest. Oh, actually, sorry, I guess I can put my handy dandy formatting here as well. And that. Okay, so the answer is 3.948, yada yada, so that's A. Okay, question 2, closing balance of tranche 1 on March 31, 2020. So again, if I were being more fancy about it, I'd put in the date here as an assumption and go and look it up, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it like I would do it in the exam. So tranche 1, March 2020. So come up here. You can use Alt and page down to scroll across the page like this, which is very handy to do. Closing balance, March 2020. There we go. And that is closest to answer C, which is 1.9. I can type, I swear I can. Okay, what is the size of the quarterly debt service for tranche 2 on 31st of December 2020? So tranche 2, 31st of December 2020, quarterly debt service, I take to mean principal plus my interest, and note that I'm putting in a minus sign here because I want to add them together, but they have opposite signs in the model. So 1.852, which is closest to B. Then question 4, what proportion of total interest expense for tranche 4 is capitalized? I guess one way to do this is some ifs. So the interest is capitalized if we are not in the payoff countdown. So where that is 0, divided by the sum of all the interest. That's one way to do it. And I get 46.24, which I don't remember. I have a feeling it's this one. It's supposed to be. Let's just go and take a quick look here. So what's that give me for the top? 387777764. So my capitalized interest here is 3877764. Fine. The rest is 45. Did I get something wrong here? Oh, yes. Sorry, I didn't implement the different interest rates. That's important. Okay, so obviously in the test I would not have spotted that because 46.2 was among the answers, but I get lucky because I had a vague recollection of what was the answer there. So again, I'm just going to use this, payoff period counter as the check. So if this is greater than 0, then I want this interest rate. Otherwise, I want that interest rate. Carry across. 47.8. That is what I thought it should be. D. And question 5. Oh, sorry, there are 6 questions actually, not 5. Oops. Still should just about get it done on time. What is the interest expense for the entire facility in 2016? So, 2016. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5966. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. That suggests I've got something else wrong. So, first things first, did I... oh. Sorry. No, that's not what it is. Okay, hang on. Did I get the right period? Yes, 5966. I'm including this. Yes, that's same every quarter, that makes sense. This is still not yet in its payoff period. Is that right? Yes, interest only for 5 years. And this one. 5966. Uh-oh. Alright, so I think I've made a mistake here somewhere. So I'm going to have to go back and check what went wrong. Oops. Alright, so question mark. And question 6, on what quarter end date does the closing balance of the facility drop from above 40 million to below 40 million? So, I'm just going to do this as I would really do it, which is scan across and say it's here. So quarter end date is 30th of June 2019. That is also not among the answers, which is consistent with my previous suspicion that I have done something wrong. All right, well, I think I'm kind of running up against the 40-minute limit that I promised myself, but let's have a very quick look, see if we can do some debugging. That is pointing at the right, 8.25. Those were not the same interest for the first two, were they? So this is why it's helpful to have your assumptions given. Okay, yeah, so this is another one that has variable interest, but it's 9 and 8.5, so they're both supposed to be higher. So let's just take rate 1 and rate 2. Put that here. It's supposed to be 9 and 8.5. And then we'll take the formula from down here. We'll have to tweak it a little, but close enough. Put it up there. Now it's going to be if that's greater than 0, then I want them the other way around. So if it's greater than 0, that means I'm in the initial period, which is the 9%. If it's 0, that means I'm in the payoff period, which is the 8.5%. So just quick sense check. What? Oh, sorry. This one has a different number of rows, so try again. 5, 2. Okay. And then at some point, we should start getting different numbers of this. Yes, okay. So now, quick check. 6153, that seems better. And when does it now fall below 40? Not obvious to me that should change that. Oh no, yeah, because it's the interest only. No, I still get 30th of June 2019. All right, so, God, this is embarrassing. Maybe something is still wrong. Let's see. 6.15, so that's answer C. And I'm still getting the 30th of June. The closing balance drop from above 40 to below 40. So as you can see, even when you've been doing this for a long time, there is still lots of scope to make mistakes. Ugh. It's unsatisfying. I hate to leave it like this, but I kind of have to get on with it. So all right, well, that's the end of the video. And if I figure out what went wrong, then obviously I'll fix it in the solution model that I post, and include some note down in the comments or somewhere else to explain what happened. That's what I got for today. I will be back at about the same time on Friday with the energy modeling question from this round. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.